I mean, you know, my point is I like to vet these things because when we go up to Tallahassee, we're all on the same page.
Right.
So when we go up there, we're all speaking off the same, or singing off the same sheet of music. I was just up there a few weeks ago. There was no discussion about an appropriations project request for $2 million in this request form. I did have the same one-on-one we all had. I don't know what you guys said in your one-on-ones. I had my comments. Then to read the paper to find out this is a top legislative priority was a little backwards in my mind. And the fact that there's $2 million that are listed in funding from Charlotte County, we didn't vet this as a board to discuss what the appropriate levels of funding are. It also mentions Charlotte, Lee, Hendry, and DeSoto would be serviced. My first question would have said, where are they on the funding list if this is a regional partnership? I think that's a question. Why isn't that $2 million spread out at $500,000 apiece? So my point is I didn't have a chance to vet this requester form when we have taxpayer dollars at risk is my point. To me, if this is the way we're going to do these things through one-on-one process and that's how our top legislative priorities are going to come out, I've got a problem with that, but apparently it's okay. So that's all my comments, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Commissioner Deutsch and then Commissioner Truex.
Just real quick, as every day goes by, you're going to find out that more often than not, the media, particularly the electronic media that still talks about the city of Port Charlotte, and that's on NBC, you know, and the local media, they don't always get all the facts and they don't always get it right. And it's unfortunate because not only do we get an opportunity to react to it, but people in the community do as well. And it's unfortunate. That's a fact of life. They do their best they can, but they don't always get it right.
It was the reason my wife canceled the paper 2 years ago.
Well, the paper got it right. They quoted right out of the document, sir.
Commissioner Truex.
So if my recollection serves me, the paper doesn't say that we've committed any monies yet.
That's right.
Number one. Number two, we do talk about this as a support item up in Tallahassee, and it is, and it should be. Again, we have to look at our options. And we haven't made any decisions on funding or where it's going to come from or had any discussions about funding at this point in time. So that could happen. We don't know what it looks like as this thing goes down to 1,000 steps and what it's going to look like as we get closer to it, if we even get closer to it. But it was in the paper. We have not committed any dollars to it. And we could decide that we're doing sales tax, we're not doing sales tax, we're not doing any general fund. We're not doing anything. We haven't met, but we support shelters in this area. We support shelters to service our citizens, and we have not enough shelters, which we'll be talking about on Thursday this week with Sarasota County. So, I mean, the shelter discussion's got to be had. What's the most efficient and affordable option for us that's going to be the most effective for the public and the public safety? That's the conversation we've got to have.
And just to the point, I forgot to mention it earlier, I recall, and forgive my memory, I don't know if it was in every meeting, the members of the legislature were told we had not made any decisions on what we would fund. As a matter of fact, I did make the comment, it'll probably, for this guy, it'll be very, very important to see what the commitment will be from the state of Florida as one of the partners in this thing, along with TICO, FP&L, and everybody else involved. So that was said, Commissioner. The paper didn't pick on that because they weren't there. So I'm just sharing with you.
My point isn't with the ask and that you went up. I don't have a problem with that. It's that we all didn't sit here and talk about that. I had to read about it in the paper that we were on a requester form with $2 million. I would have just liked to have had that conversation so I don't have to read the paper about our top legislative priority. That was the only point I wanted to make, a little transparency.
Commissioner Constance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So two things. I think, if anything, if it even gets that far, will be the last $2 million in, because all that other stuff has to fall into place before we're even involved in the game. But, Commissioner Tiseo, I hear you. The words are top legislative priority, and that is not accurate. Okay? It's a support item, but that verbiage in the statement that is being moved around Tallahassee is not accurate. Is that the point that you're trying to make?
That and the fact I had no clue we had a requester going up there, and that it was even, because when I went up there to Tallahassee a few weeks ago, we didn't talk about this. Specific with Kitson and the thing out there and $2 million I mean, it just wasn't,
We aren't a requester. We are not a requester, and the newspaper put in top legislative priority.
it's
But it
written,
says it in
it says it in the
it says it in
requester.
document. That's-
When we go to Tallahassee, we support, and we've told them we support, and we have not been committed.
In the document that was submitted in the requester form, we're named as a partner, and the specific language I read about a top, it's in there. They put that, they inserted that language. Okay, that's all. And if it is, we should have had that conversation.
Understood.
Thank you, sir.
I didn't realize
Very
that.
good.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioners, I think we have wrapped up our comments. So I would appreciate a 5-minute break, and we will recess for 5 minutes, come back at 2:15,